What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be working on the EF sedan, and my goal is to turn the car on. I did mention a couple of videos ago that we were waiting for a conversion harness and a ground kit for the car. Shout out to Chris. He kept me posted, and apparently the package was kind of delayed where he's from because of crazy high snow, and the package is now in California. So what I want to do today, because I want to make progress, I've been waiting for it for a couple of days now, but the delay kind of set us back a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take out the conversion harness, which is also a CJS wiring from the wagon. And because the wagon don't have an ECU, I don't really drive it, the harness, I could just pop it off, plug it into this car. And reason for the wagon's harness is because it's a DX chassis, so the plugs are the same for this DX model. The KRX is an SI chassis, so it has a different plug, and I don't have the plug for it. Although I don't think we actually need the tire plug, we just need the ECU connection for the fuel, the power, and all that good jazz. So let's get to work. This one, okay, so I found a couple of ground cables. This is the one that was in the KRX, and I took it off because I made a much shorter one, because obviously this thing is like 2 feet long. Probably just gonna bolt this up for the time being until we get our ground cables come in the mail, and this is the only one that's terminated on both ends. So let's go ahead and get this bolted up real quick. Right now I need to terminate the charge harness so we can get it all connected right now. And normally I do this in the factory configuration of how the EF power system works. I'm sure it's the same for the EG, DC, EK, and probably the other chassis as well. Off the battery positive terminal, it goes to the starter, and then it bridges off and then powers up the fuse box. And then the alternator charge harness goes from the alternator directly to the fuse box. Somebody mentioned in the comment in the previous video of when I made the charge harness and said you could have just ran one charge harness to the starter and then bridged the starter to the alternator, in the sense that it's right next to each other on a K-series engine. I never thought about it like that, because technically it is bridged off at the fuse box. So I would have saved one long charge harness and just terminate one on this end. Never thought about it like that. But anyways, I appreciate that comment. Because we already have two here, what I'm going to do, a little bit different than the factory configuration, is I'm going to run the starter power wire to the fuse box, which is technically supposed to be for the alternator right here. Reason for that is because my starter wire is right here, and it is barely long enough to go to the fuse box. And the alternator is this red one, which is super long. And I'm just gonna tie this straight into the battery, because the battery is just gonna sit right here on the passenger footwell for right now. I remember having a lot of voltage issue with my red all-wheel drive CRX with the battery in the trunk. So I ran a ground cable from the back all the way to the engine, so it's making that direct connection. And I still had kind of like a battery drop off. So Jeremy recommended that I power up the alternator directly to the battery, and I did just that. And then the car ended up charging like full voltage. So I think I'm going to do it this time around, because the battery is going to be in the trunk, I think. And this is going to go all the way to the back directly to the battery. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt down the starter and then figure out our battery situation. I think it'll be a smart idea to pull the battery out of CRX and throw it on the trickle charger so we can get some juice going. Kind of sad. I really don't drive this car, and it's been kind of cold to do the body work because I did kind of start on it, but car's still for sale. Engine looking mighty fine. So this right here is a temporary terminal I'm using. Found it in my box, and stainless steel. It does have two ports right here you can put power wires into, or ground if you're using this for ground. And then you got the Allen keys on the top to lock that into place. I'm going to use one for the alternator and then the other one to power up the fuse box. I do have an option to put a terminal and bolt system on the top for a bigger gauge wire, which I'm not worried about right now. I do have this charge harness I found in my bin, which has one terminated end that's going to go to the fuse box, and then this end right here is going to go into one of these slots. Okay, we got it all trimmed down. Got to make sure it's long enough to go all the way to the Allen, and we should be Gucci potatoes. Go ahead and lock this in. All right, that's one. Alrighty, so now I'm gonna go ahead and secure this end to the fuse box. So now we have our power cables to their home location. And I think with the ground, I'm just gonna go from here to the firewall to the engine. And I have a couple of terminated big ground cables. I have this ginormous thing right here, which is perfect actually, because it does have a battery terminal on the other end of it. So I'm gonna route this through the firewall and bolt it up to the engine itself so it gets direct ground. We have the ground cable right here, routed through the old AC hole, and then it's gonna go all the way up to the thermostat tensioner housing, the water pump housing right there. Just gonna bolt it up, right? And then you have the bolts obviously making connection here, which is making connection to the engine. The engine is connected 3 ground cables to the chassis. I think that's going to be plenty for a startup. So we got the ground cable ready to rock and roll, guys. And now I'm going to go and grab the conversion harness out of the wagon. I've had the CJS wiring harness in this car for so long that his early stages of K20 conversion harnesses weren't even plug and play yet. So over here, I had to beat up a OBD0 ECU just to take the plugs off of it and make this a plug and play, right? So that way I didn't have to hack up any wiring in this car to, you know, get these signals and stuff that I'm looking for. So this one right here, this is the O2 sensor. So I'm gonna have to go into the engine bay and disconnect that, if it's disconnected, because I don't remember if I'm running the factory O2 sensor or not. Dang, I can't even see. Okay, it's right here. Disconnect that. This right here, C101 plug. This should connect to the big gray plug on the factory harness. Goes on like that. This is for the ECU. This right here needs to plug to the chassis, which is the brown sleeve plug here. It's very important to make sure this thing's clicked, otherwise you're gonna have some starting issues. We are all the way in. This harness right here is for the DX LX model, and pretty much the dual point setup. If you're an SI, it's the small little green plug. What I like about CJ's K20 conversion harness is that it does come with both plugs. So for the SI, it's a sub harness. For the DX LX, it just comes right off the rip, this round plug here. Clip that in. And then these 3 right here goes to the factory ECU, which uses the power signal, the fuel pump, and all that good stuff. So I'm gonna connect this guy. All right, so this is ready for the ECU. 1 plug, 2 plug, and 3. I'm gonna have to order the block off for the K-series map sensor right here, and it's only like 15 bucks or something like that. But hear me out. This right here is a like a bolt for XXR 521 wheel. This is like the rivet that's on the perimeter of the rim on my brother's old wheel setup, and I had this in the drawer. Put an O-ring on it. I'm gonna put a second O-ring on it, just cause. And this actually fits right in here, nice and snug. Look at that. All right, guys, we lost a couple of hours here. I was hanging out with the homie Brian. Shout out to Brian for sliding through. And I don't really get to hang out with him much, but it's always nice to catch up with him. I do need to put the fluids in. So let's go ahead and fill it up with some fluid. Get my little catch pan on the bottom to make sure nothing leaks down here. And normally for a turbo car, I run Rotella 1540. A lot of people probably ask me why I run it. Diesel oil, meant for turbo, zinc, cheap. Especially if you're on E85, you change oil frequently because of the mixture with E85 and oil. It's cheap to change out, and it's always been working perfectly fine for me. But I just so happen to get a good deal on VR1, so we're going to be running VR1 this time around. I do have the Honda oil filter already in the car. I believe that is 5 quarts. I do have an extra quart, so probably just going to do the 5 quarts first. So let's grab the Red Zone funnel. If you guys want to grab one of these for yourself and support your locals, man, hit up the link in the description below and cop yourself one, man. They have a lot of colors and also a lot of different make and model now as well too. Probably gonna end up putting all 5 quarts in here, but right now I'm gonna go ahead and do probably 1.5. I'm gonna check underneath the car, and then we'll dunk the rest of it in here. I know there's no oil in it because I resealed the bottom end. So now I'm gonna go ahead and check under, check underneath, make sure we're not leaking. I think we're Gucci. Alrighty. We're probably gonna top it off when the turbo stuff goes in. Let all of the lines and everything, the turbo, get filled with oil. Then check the dipstick and fill up that last quart accordingly. For right now, 5 quarts is plenty. One more thing I want to do before I close up for tonight is plug up my O2 sensor port on the header, and we're probably going to have to disable the O2 sensors in the computer, so that way we're not throwing a check engine light for it on the first startup. Go ahead and just crank it down a little bit. Get this one all tightened up as well, and that's ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to continue tomorrow, guys. We're going to calibrate the TPS sensor, hook up the ECU, and then we're going to try to shoot for our first startup. So we'll see you guys in the next clip. Right now I'm headed to the post office to check my PO box. The homie Chris sent me a message and said the package was delivered. Package secured, and there's 2 of them. I need to start buying these in quantities. Like, I keep shattering this. This is number 6. But anyways, so we're back from the PO box. Normally I unbox everything at the end of the video, right? But because we may be needing everything in this box today in this video, I'm gonna unbox it right now. Once again, I want to give a big shout out to the homie Chris. He reached out to me after watching one of my videos where I was mentioning that I'm looking for a CJS wiring conversion harness and the K20 tucked harness. He has the conversion harness and a brand new set of CJS wiring ground cable kit that he is no longer needing. They are brand new in the box, and during his build, he decided he was gonna go fuel tech. So after seeing my video, he reached out and said, hey man, we'd love to donate these to the channel. I mentioned in the previous video that the homie Carlos from CJS Wiring had passed away a couple of weeks ago before coming into the New Year's, and he was a good friend of mine. I've known him probably 15 years or so now, and as I showed you guys earlier clips, that I have the original harness in my wagon that was made by him through the Honda Tech days. My KRX currently runs all his stuff as well too, and I want my new personal EF sedan to also be rocking his stuff. Although a lot of his stuff is not available anymore, I had kind of set out that feeler post of wanting to track down any of his products. So Chris reached out and said, hey man, got him, I'm gonna send it to you, and all he wants in return is a signed photo of one of my cars. Now, big shout out to the homie Mock Films for doing a photo shoot recently on the H2B CRX. He also did a photo shoot on my KRX and a photo shoot on the wagon. So I might select a few of those, get them printed, and send it out your way, Chris. So let's go ahead and open it and show you guys what's inside here. And you guys already know, man, cut away from yourself, okay? Not towards yourself. And my blade is really, really dull. Yeah, it's chipped. And that is Chris right there. Oh my goodness. I literally pulled this out and like everything that was underneath it was coming out with it too. Holy cow, there's a lot of stuff in here that I did not expect, man. But let me show you guys. Okay, all the way from cornfields of Nebraska. My cousin went to school out there for football in Nebraska. Thanks for everything you do, big dog, Chris. Appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. There's a lot more in here than I had thought. And I want to give a big shout out, man. Big thank you. We got a I Love JDM. Holy cow, this is throwback as F. I don't know if JHP USA still sell these, but man, I got to show you guys my backpack, dude. We also have a little CRX key tag here, which I actually have a red one exactly like this. We also have a little key tag, the key to happiness, obviously our whips, right? We have a giant sticker pack. Check this out. We have, I'm pretty sure this is like Ghost Box or something. And then we have some EBC stuff, which I have some EBC pads, but not for the calipers and setup that I'm running. Got a couple of those. Not entirely sure what that is. JDI, most definitely. 100 proof. I believe these are MPCs. Big shout outs. We got 2 of those. HT in your corner. Oh, that's what it is. We got this thing right here. We got a couple of Progress Techs. Heel toe. Freaking awesome sticker pack, bro. Anyways, what is this? Beck and Arley fits 9091, not 8889. These are, oh, yo, you don't realize how much I need this. Key cylinder with matching keys. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. We also have a bunch of oil drain washers, drain plug washers. There's 20 of them. I appreciate that. My dumbass is always using the old ones and they're all like expanded out. So guys, CJS wiring, ground kit. I'm so happy about this, man. Thank you so much, bro. Shout out to the homie CJS Wiring, man. Definitely one of the best product out there in the community for wiring harnesses and wiring needs. Shout out to Chris for this, man. I can't thank you enough. Right here we got brand new in the bag, CJS Wiring K-swap conversion harness. This has both the SI and the DX plugs, which I kind of mentioned to you guys when I installed the other one yesterday. This little plug right here goes to the green plug on the SI chassis or EX or Wagon RT, and then the DX model LX uses this big round plug here, even for the standard chassis as well too, like the hatchback. So big shout out, man. I'm probably gonna end up taking the one out of the car, put that back into the wagon, and use this one in the car. Big shout out, big thank you to Chris, man. I appreciate you so much for reaching out, dude. Like, now it's just on the hunt for the harness, man. If I can find a nice, clean, new, slightly used K-Series CJS wiring harness, I would love to get my hands on those. So as I mentioned, most companies will sell you the conversion harness and then you have to select DX or SI. CJ's harness will give you the sub harness with the purchase. Like, you don't have to select DX or SI. So if your car is a DX, you use this sub harness. If your car is an SI, you can use pretty much the entire harness without the sub harness because the SI plug is already built in. So I'm gonna go ahead and just swap these out. This is a DX chassis, and I think I've shown you guys the installation on the other harness wrong. The round plug, you can use it on the passenger side if your car is a SI, EX, RT. But on the DX, you use the conversion harness, and it actually plugs up to the driver's side, which is over there, normally on the left side tower plug, but mine is tucked, so it's actually underneath there. Wire right here going through, plug is over there. And then this harness also has a DLC plug on it. This is the newer harness, obviously, and then it also has the coolant temp and fan switch that you run into the engine bay, so you can have your fan and stuff work properly. So this is all hooked up. Let me get these guys plugged up and grab my laptop. So I have the fan switch and coolant temp right here connected to the sensors on the Bull Boost billet thermostat housing, and this is perfectly length. I do have it all zip tied, so it's like one harness instead of like kind of all over the place. Normally I run it this way, but I'm trying to avoid having anything over here, so I route it this way, and like I said, perfect length. This right here is kind of bothering me because it's freaking silver, and I'm not used to seeing it there because this is supposed to be straight metal tubing to the housing, but because we had to use a hose in between to connect the two with the billet thermostat housing, I had to use hose clamp, but I have a solution for that. So over here I ordered on Amazon some REDZONERACE dye, and I got this in navy blue, and I'm going to be dyeing my OEM floor mats, a spare set that I got from the junkyard a long time ago. I do have the front, the rear is over here, and they're already pressure washing clean. Just got to find a tub big enough to soak them in. But anyways, part of that package right here, I ordered black worm clamps. So these are black, and it's going to be a little more stealth under the intake manifold where the silver ones are sitting, although again, you're probably not going to see it, but it bothers me because I know it's silver. So I'm going to change that out real quick, and then I'm also going to change my fuel pressure gauge because I don't know what happened there, but I do have another one over there somewhere. Alrighty, that looks so much better. What silver clamps? Yes, sir. I would prefer to have this on the fuel pressure regulator, except we don't really have the space for it right there, and on the fuel rail is perfectly fine as well too. So I'm just gonna go ahead and bolt this on right there. You can read it upside down. Yes, sir. Alrighty, we'll go ahead and take off the battery. And go ahead and just put the positive terminal on here, super tight, and then this is the ground. So over here we're gonna go ahead and just open up the K manager, because K Pro, you know what I'm saying. Go over here, I'm gonna go ahead and just go to new calibration. This is a K20 A2 RSX, and we're just gonna select a pretty much stock base map. Let me see, factory K20 A2 calibration, which is pretty much everything to the factory ECU with stock injectors, 310s. I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I don't really know shit about this, but all I know is that there's a certain sensors and stuff that we're gonna try to eliminate because we don't want to throw any check engine lights. For right now, there's not gonna be any correction with the fuel stuff because I don't have an O2 sensor, so I'm gonna have to disable that. So let me see, go over here, pretty much go through every parameter. So let me set you guys down real quick. Okay, so pretty basic here, and I'm gonna go ahead and bring the laptop into the car and grab my cable right here. We have an ECU hooked up, we have our cable right here hooked up to the laptop. So now we're gonna go ahead and put the ground cable on. Oh yeah, we got some power, baby. Let's go. I was 8 years old when I just realized I don't have a throttle cable, so that means I'm gonna have to calibrate the TPS sensor manually. And 9091 sedan owners, or even the wagon guys, yeah, that's the most annoying buzzer ever, dude. So yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and load up this map into the ECU. I'm gonna disconnect the negative real quick. I looked at the fuse box and it's actually missing the ignition 50 amp fuse right there. So I'm gonna have to go find one real quick. I don't really go through these drawers, but apparently I do have some 50 amps, although this is more so like the EG DC style. Round 2. Still no ECU power. Interesting. I don't know how I'm so blind to it. I was using a multimeter to check voltage from the battery, the cables, the ignition fuses and everything, and then I move over to the smaller fuses and realizing that the ECU fuse is not there. It is a 15 amp, and we have literally 0 amps. So I'm gonna get a 15 amp real quick. I want to say they are the blue ones. Oh, right here, perfect. We got 1 and 2, because the slot for the condenser is also missing too, even though we don't really need it. Key on. Okay, there's some type of shortage going on because the RPM gauge moved up to about 600 or 700 RPMs. It could be 100% grounding issue because our ground cable goes to the engine and not the chassis. So let's bolt one up. This is normally where I call Carlos from CJS Wiring to like help me pinpoint, because wiring is like my weakest point. I do know somewhat about it, don't know everything about it. But anyways, I added another ground cable. Sorry for it being dark. I added another ground cable right here to frame, sanded it down, and we're still having the checking light coming on. RPM is kind of jumping, and I called the homie Nomis Industries. He does a little wiring as well too, and he was like, check power at ECU plug A2 and A3. We have 12 volts there, and then check ground, which is A4 and A5. We have continuity to chassis, so that's working well. And then I took a peek inside the ECU, and it's lit up green, so that means the ECU is not getting power. So we hooked it up to the laptop, guys, and it does now say online. So we uploaded the map into the ECU. It is on live right now, and I have a checking light for IAT sensor. And then it clicked to me, well, I don't have an IAT sensor right here, and also I remembered that I need to change the crank sensor, which is a K24, so I need to switch it over to the K20, which I have right here. So I went and turned the key off and back on, right? Looks exactly the same, but I also noticed that the fuel pressure gauge built up some pressure, which earlier it didn't. And we have, I don't know, 10, 15. So we're gonna have to adjust our regulator, but we have pressure now. It was hard for me to tell if the fuel pump was working or not because it is factory, and the gauge just tells me that we have fuel coming through. I have the IAT sensor connected here. We have the K20 crank sensor down below connected. TPS is calibrated per the voltmeter, although calibrating it on the K Pro reads a little low. We're gonna have to figure that out. I bypassed the two black white wires at the center console, and it doesn't start at the key. So I might try to crank it right up in the front over here. Might even do it without the car on, so we can cycle the oil and also you know, build some compression first before we fully fire it over. Go ahead and turn the key off real quick. So simple enough, you just got to jump the starter signal to the power wire and it'll trigger the starter to turn on. So I already have it disconnected from the starter, needle nose from the signal terminal to the power. Do we not have power? What's going on here? We have a dead battery. So laptop is back here. All my tools, everything is put away. Everything that belongs to the wagon is put back into the wagon. And I was like, just need a battery. And I didn't want to drive to the store. I was going to do it tomorrow. And then I took it out of this car. I said, you know what, F it. I'm going to try to see if I can turn this thing over tonight. And I've already primed the engine. And I'm ready to fire it for the first time. And I swear, I did not do it off camera already. So this is going to be the first start with you guys. I'm a little concerned about that clicking noise. And we're gonna F around and find out. It still doesn't start with the key for some reason, even with the starter wire here connected. So here goes nothing. Battery's dead. Man. Okay, we got 35 fuel pressure. Battery is brand new in that car, and it's not. Looks like the battery fuse is popped. If I probe it on one side here, we'll get 12 volts, and then if I do the opposite side, we get nothing. Don't have another fuse, and something is shorted somewhere. Sucks to say, but we're gonna have to diag this a little bit. I mean, a little bit more. So I've been doing a lot of research last night, trying to figure out what is going on with my car. Me and the homie Nomis off camera yesterday, we were just kind of diagging everything, going through everything one by one. And what I was going to do today was just do process of elimination, right? Disconnect the entire conversion harness and plug them in one by one, crank the car, see where in the harness is it popping to know where to start looking for the electrical issue, right? But I came across a post on CRX community of a guy who did an alternator swap on his D16A6, swapped the wires wrong, and popped a bunch of battery fuses. That's the issue we were having yesterday, right? So I know I mentioned earlier in the video of me running the starter wire to the fuse box where the alternator wire is supposed to go, and then running the alternator wire to the battery to give it direct, because I was having charging issues in my red car before when the battery was in the trunk. So I did it that way. I've been popping all kind of fuses. So I took the fuse box out of the car and I opened it up to see why we were having continuity in areas that we weren't supposed to. Turns out the terminal is not broken, it's just out of its like clip, and the terminal was touching the other one, which is causing it to have, you know, continuity going through it because they were touching each other. Upon taking apart the fuse box and kind of like inspecting everything, I realized the circuit board is not what I thought it was. I thought the alternator positioning on the fuse box is like on a distribution to the battery cable that goes into the fuse box. I was completely wrong. So having the starter in the slot of where the alternator is supposed to be at, it's kind of hard to visual this when I'm not showing this to you guys visually. The starter sitting in the slot where the alternator is sitting at during cranking, I think it's just drawing too much, which then leads to popping these fuses. So I'm going to test the theory out. I got a bunch more fuses now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap the starter charge harness straight to the battery and not in the fuse box anymore. I'm going to leave the alternator harness and charge harness still disconnected, and I'm going to put a fuse in and see if it'll crank over. Harness installed, starter cable to battery, the red one here, new fuse, and ECU is hooked up. I'll go ahead and get this thing to turn on real quick. I can hear the main relay still coming on and off like it's supposed to, but the cell light stays on. We got almost 40 psi. Kind of just want to crank it over, really. Kind of just want to crank it over. Now, my main issue is as soon as I go to crank, pops the fuse. So let's see. I can't crank it. Make sure the neutral safety switch is bypassed. Okay, it's not popping, so that's good. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go crank it at the starter and hold the throttle cable open, because right now it doesn't sound like it's building compression, but after a little while, after an engine sits for so long, when you crank it over, it'll build compression, and then it should want to start. It's like the injectors aren't firing, because with brake cleaner it wants to go, but it's not going. On K-Pro, I still have the check engine light for the IAT sensor, and I was like, okay, well, let me go do some research and try to figure out what's going on. And then I come over here to double check to make sure my IAT sensor is still here and doesn't look damaged or anything. 2-pin wire, can't get it mixed up with TPS or MAP. So I made sure that these guys weren't like flip-flop, you know, checking the color of the wire and everything. And then I pull this guy out, and there's a wire missing right there for the MAP sensor. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to repair that one real quick. All right, let's do this again and see if it turns over. Same deal. Okay, well, I'm still trying to understand why TPS is not like, you know. So I'm gonna go back over here, right? I'm gonna go and download from the ECU, right? Oh, I made sure the timing was good. It has compression now compared to earlier. So guys, I've been spending a good minute trying to diagnose this car and trying to figure out why the car won't turn on. It turns on with a brake cleaner, but it doesn't turn on with without it. So I'm on the phone right now with the homie Nomis, and we're just trying to go through the whole entire scenario, and everything seems to be checking out. And then he goes, do you have gas? I'm over here, you know, stubborn as hell. I'm like, yeah, bro, 43 PSI of gas and everything. I can smell the gas. It's nasty. It's old. Sat for 9 years. So then I go inside the car. I'm like, man, hopefully this ain't another Mondo situation, right? So I turn the light on, and guys, that shit is fucking beyond E, bro. It is beyond E. So I think what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna go get some gas, throw some gas in the car, and if this thing fire over, I'll be looking over the simplest things, dude. So yeah, I'm gonna clean it real quick, head to the gas station, and it better be it, dude. It better be it. Alright, well, that's 6 fucking gallons. That shit was fucking fast. My pump fucking ran out of battery, so I didn't use the pump. Just straight up pulled this bitch up. Alright guys, 6 gallons of gas. Let's fire it over. Let's see if this thing will turn on. It's gonna be kind of loud, so
it's not turning on by itself, Simon.
brake cleaner stuff is scary, bro. When it backfires, it's scary. Whoops. Whoops. Not gonna lie to you guys, man. The car just turned on and it idled on its own. I had to turn the key off to shut it off because it's so damn loud. So me and the homie Nomis, we were just kind of going through again all the scenarios possible, and we just kind of came down to maybe the injectors just aren't firing. We have 12 volts. We have 12 volts here, and the injectors were the original injectors that came with this engine when I got it from the junkyard. Don't know how long it sat. Don't know if they skunked up, but I noticed that when I did take it off, this thing was dry as hell. So we swapped some new injectors in it that I had in my bin in the back over there, and we swapped it in. We went through some of the parameters. We you know what I'm saying, we tried to crank it over there, and then the car would just turn on, turn off. We did it again, turned on, turn off. The third time this thing turned on and stayed on. So I just want to turn it on for you guys really quickly so you can hear it. But I'm gonna go inside the car and turn out the key instead of at the starter. So I'm gonna set you guys back up right here real quick. It's gonna be kind of loud. It was the injectors the entire time, dude. So I had already cleaned everything up and put everything away, and then I was like, wait, I need to test the alternator, make sure the alternator is charging. So I put everything back in, and everything's hooked up. I'm about to turn the car over and check the voltage to make sure the alternator is charging. The voltage it should be at. Let's go ahead and turn this loud thing over. Manually off. Alright guys, so we're gonna wrap it up for this video. The EF sedan finally turns on under its own power. First and foremost, man, Want to give a big shout out to Chris from Nebraska. Thank you for donating the CJS wiring K20 conversion harness as well as the ground kit. I'm probably gonna have to install that because I just remembered I didn't do that. But anyways, everything that we've done the last 2 days as far as diag goes, sometimes it's just as simple as injectors, man. Big shout out to the homie Nomis though for being on call and running me through a lot of the case scenarios of what potentially may be the problem. And with him and me kind of working through it the last 2 days, we narrowed it down to the injectors. Car turns on, sounds a little rowdy. Probably rowdy because it's so quiet right now. But the car turns on and we're moving in the right direction. Definitely did not want to leave you guys off with the car not being turned on. So, you know, we pushed through it and you guys heard it. You guys heard it here second because Instagram heard it first. But I'm gonna go ahead and discard all of these blown fuses because we no longer need them. I mean, you don't really use them after they're blown anyways. And I gotta find a new home for all the ones we have now. I do want to mention that not everything comes from the junkyard works 100%. You guys remember the engine we got for Project Blueberry, the very first one? That thing was so gunked up. It was, VTEC didn't even work. That's how bad it was. Sensors as well too. Sometimes the sensor may look like it's new, may look like it's clean, may look like it may not have any problems, but we had an issue with the IAT sensor check engine light coming on, and I kept giving it the benefit of the doubt. I kept telling the homie Nomis, like, hey man, it's not the sensor, it's not the sensor, it's not the sensor. I'm stubborn. I'm not gonna lie to you guys. And he was like, you know what, just get another sensor from the other car and just process elimination. So I went to the KRX, I grabbed the sensor out of there, one of these, stuck it in, cleared DTC, and guess what? No more check engine lights. So this right here, it's also trash. I'm gonna throw this away. Okay, I'm gonna prove to you guys. I'm not gonna hoard this. Okay, that's not enough. Okay, basura. Now that the engine is turned on, guys, I'm gonna spend a day on it to really fine tune everything out, make sure everything is Gucci potatoes before we start getting into the cooling system. Now, before we truly cap out this video, I shown you guys that we got 2 packages from the PO box. I unboxed the first one from Chris, and then the second one is right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this up and see what's inside. This one did come from, it's an Amazon bag, but Mountainside Merchandise. No idea who that is, but let's go ahead and open this up and cut away from yourself, not towards yourself. Oh, still super dull. It is a Hot Wheel. Oh, I'll tell you right off the bat, I don't have this one. So this right here is just a receipt. There's also a receipt. This one right here. Dana, good luck with the builds and keep doing what you're doing. Inspiration to all, especially the my community. Sending positive vibes to your way. From Tony Gale. That's my mom's last name. Yo, Tony, I appreciate it, man. EF hatchback with the little decal right there on the bottom. Most definitely do not have this in my collection. And now I'm gonna have another car to hang on my wall. I have an entire wall. I haven't shown you guys, I don't think. My entire wall in my room, front to back, is all Hot Wheels that you guys sent over to the PO box. So I truly appreciate you guys so much for the kind gesture, really. And thank you, Tony, for this one to add to the collection. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the progress update on the EF Sedan, man. If y'all did, be sure to leave a thumbs up. And if you guys want to stick around for more progress update on the car, the cooling system, the turbo kit, be sure to hit the subscribe button. But with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys at the next video. Peace.